1:30 p.m. Monday, September 13th, and then convening the Real Property Committee meeting. I'd like to let everyone know that all citizens, I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. First item of business is approval of previous meetings minutes from August 2nd, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to item number 3, citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? No citizens' comments. Marina tenant comments. We don't have any of the Marina tenants present here today, but we did get some comments and questions that were sent to us just a little bit earlier today. Desiree, did you see those from the family group? And there were questions that were actually addressed to myself, John, Kevin, you, and copied the Lorenzes also. It's from John Bushnell.
Do you want me to read the question for the record?
Yeah, if you could do that, and that would be good.
Sure.
Thank you.
The email is from John Bushnell to Rusty John, I'm sorry, Councilmember Street, Councilmember Roy, and Councilmember Thompson and myself.
How dare you?
Oops. Okay, so it says, Rusty, Kevin, and John, we will not be able to attend today's real property meeting, but we do have some questions for the committee. We'd like some transparency and visibility around the shared parking lot. As tenants, we would like to know who all is sharing the shared parking lot. Questions are, number 1, how many business permits are issued at the IOP Marina address? Number 2, does the city have any information as to how many employees are working for all of these Marina businesses? Number 3, what are the operating guidelines for the shared parking lot? What are the hours? Is overnight parking allowed? Maximum time limit, etc. Is the shared parking... Question number 4, is the shared parking area specifically designated as overflow parking so that once all the other leased parking areas are full, only then do tenants have their customers park in the shared lot? Thank you.
Okay, Desiree, in regards to these questions, should we have discussion around those
They're
at
not,
this point, or is that something that you would need to follow up on and provide the answers?
so I don't have all the answers. I don't know, at the top of my head, I don't know how many business have active permits. That's certainly something that we can, with Douglas's office, we can identify. So what I would suggest is I can respond to him via email.
Yeah, we've got some feedback on one of these microphones. Yeah.
They're both off. And respond to them in writing and copy the committee so that you all have a copy of the responses.
Okay, any feedback from,
That would be
You got it.
great, because to be honest, I'm kind of confused how that middle shared parking works as well. Because there are some cars, because I go down there a lot, that park next to the fence and everything that seem to be there a while.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't know how true it is, but he's pointed out to me that there's some vehicles that are there for 6 months. So I'm just not really sure how it works.
I've seen the same thing down there. I mean, it's just, and I think with the restaurant being closed and that sort of thing, it's even gotten worse in terms of the clutter of vehicles in that shared parking area. So I think we should address them as you mentioned, and get back with family group as well as a committee here. We might need to have some further discussion at some point. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One quick comment on that, because the shared parking lot has had probably a disproportionate amount of airtime over the past several years, both in terms of in committee and outside of committee, and it's been a source of a lot of conflict between tenants at the marina. And I know we've typically tried to have the tenants work with each other because of the way that maybe the leases are structured. But I think that these questions being arisen and the fact that it seems like is a constant source of conflict between tenants, that having some clarity, and we kind of pushed for that last time, and I think that was the word I used, was there's just some ambiguity around how this shared parking is managed. And I think, and I won't, he's not here, but I believe what Brian said to me afterwards, if I'm Brian Berrigan, the Marina manager, was he didn't feel like there was a lack of ambiguity. So if there's clarity that maybe is one-sided where he understands and we don't, if that could be made a little bit more public, both to this committee as well as to the general population. But I think there's clearly an issue here. There's a disconnect between what is supposed to happen and what is happening, or at least the expectations are not well aligned. So whatever we can do to make sure that that's clear, and perhaps it even deserves some something written. I don't know. We have this lease that is not very well, the operations of the shared parking is not well delineated from what I've seen. And I'm looking around just to see if
No,
anybody.
I agree
Maybe
with
that's
you.
what's missing is
Yeah.
the shared parking operational agreement that maybe doesn't exist and should.
Yeah, and looking at the lease, I mean, really, it's not spelled out very well, in my opinion, also. I do know that there has been some conversation between Brian Berrigan and the Lorenzes are
Yeah.
working together to come up with some ideas
Right.
Mhm.
as to what shared parking would look like.
Mhm.
Now, we haven't seen that yet. I'm not sure that that's something that they've worked out, but I do know that they've met in regards to that because I talked to both parties about it. But when
Mhm.
that's going to be forthcoming, I don't really know.
So I did talk to both Chrissy and Brian last week and got from them that they've both have met. They're both doing their own assignments and looking at what a workable plan would look like. And they're scheduled to meet again. Whether they're meeting again this week or the following week, I'm not clear. But I asked both of them to keep me updated as to those developments, as long as they can work on this together, or whether I need to be involved to
Mhm.
facilitate any discussion.
Another question in regard to shared parking, it's not on this, it's not part of the questions here that I can tell, but it comes up a lot, is just where do residents stand on shared parking in regards to whether they could park for free, which we used to do, or whether we have to pay to park. And I think that's something we need to address too, as we look at this entire shared parking area.
Okay.
Okay? Anything else? Thank you very much. We'll move on to old business. And item A, update on Marina Dock Rehabilitation Project. Desiree?
Yes, last week I shared with you all an update from the contractor, Salmons Dredging, regarding the status of the work and some of the delays that they have encountered recently that are issues that are contributing to the delay. As you all know, it was their intention to mobilize to the area on this week, September 13th, starting today, to start the demolition of the area, dock area B, which is the charter docks, those docks that are in front of the Marina store. And due to some issues that are not under their control, they've had to modify that schedule. So currently they are looking at potentially mobilizing starting next week, an additional week delay. Some of the reasons for the delay, they've had some COVID-19 impacts to their staff, which has required them to quarantine members of some of their subcontractors. Just like we have had to modify schedules in the city family just because of people getting sick and having close contact with people that have tested positive. They've had some impacts due to that as well. They're continuing to work on the connection to the potable water service. They've had to replace some of the in-ground materials that were not identified until excavation. There's some areas there that require adjusting the materials of how they're connected to each other, just because some of it is PVC, some of it is copper, and it's just not ideal. So they're changing that. And that was something that was unforeseen, that was not, they were not aware of until after they excavated, because it's not visible from, until excavation happened. There's the pressure testing and disinfecting is ongoing. They were hoping to get that completed last week. I haven't received an update as of today, Monday, on whether or not that has been completed, but I've reached out to Kirby and I'm waiting to hear back from him on that. Again, what we're looking at is potentially having them complete the potable water system testing and pressure testing. They were hoping to get it completed this weekend. That's what I'm still haven't heard back today, whether that was done or not, or if they're going to continue to work on this week. But the earliest that they would be able to mobilize to the area to start on phase 2 is next week, not this week as originally planned.
Okay, but so with next week, talking next Monday, or the
Next
estimate?
week, yes. I mean, I think they plan the whole week,
Right,
starting on Monday. So whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday when they start mobilizing, I don't know yet.
Mr. Chair.
yes, Kevin.
Question about the water. I get the pressure testing, but then also they have to have the samples, the BT samples taken.
Mhm.
Is that something that goes through Isle of Palm's water work first for good samples and then on to DHEC, or do you know the?
I don't know that. I don't know if they have a third party testing, or they do that through the Water and Sewer Commission. I don't know, but I'll find out and let you know.
Because until until DHEC passes those bacteria samples and the water's good and they give permits to operate or whatever, normally the water's cut off so nobody can use it on the dock, so nobody can drink it or whatever, get in trouble. So I'm assuming that's the case.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Desiree, could you talk to us a little bit about the Structure Marine's comments about the aluminum extrusions for the fuel hut platform?
So it goes back, we had the same issue with the potable water system. They've had to identify additional materials, just because of shortages. I do not know, again, it's Monday and I haven't had an opportunity to speak at length with Kirby, whether those materials, alternative materials had yet been identified.
Yeah, I'm talking about the fuel hut platform, though. There was a problem. It's part of this email that we got last week from Jack Harrelson.
Mhm.
It said, Structure Marine continues to seek out alternate suppliers for specific aluminum extrusions required to fabricate the fuel hut platform.
Correct. And, they'll revise their project schedule as soon as they get confirmation that the required materials have been located and
Yeah.
procured. That hasn't yet been confirmed to me.
Do we have any sense at this point, and I'm probably thinking we do, that do we think that this project can still be completed by mid-November?
So our current deadline for them, so before we activate any liquidated damages provision, is November 19th. One of the reasons why I wanted to have another meeting with the engineer and the contractor was to evaluate whether that schedule will continue to still be in place, and then what the city's position will be in regards to extending that. As of today, I have not agreed to extending the schedule deadline past November 19th. So our position is that the project should be completed, at least substantially completed by that date.
Okay. All right, let's move on to item B, update on Marina Restaurant renovation by Marker 116 LLC. And do you want to kick it off, Desiree? And I know that Councilmember Popson has some information as well.
Yeah, so Councilmember Popson had a meeting with them on Friday, and I think he walked the site and provided some really nice pictures of the progress. I've shared those with you, and we'll also share them with through the live streaming for everybody watching. from our perspective, we continue to have our meetings with our owner's representative and their contractor. We actually have our next meeting tomorrow, where we'll hear a little bit more updates on where they are. Those meetings have gone well. The feedback that we've received from Insight Group has been positive, and any issues that have been encountered have been addressed fairly quickly. So from our perspective, it's going well, and it's being done in a way that, no deficiencies have been identified. That's in regards to an update. I thought that they were going to attend the meeting today. So, and they didn't provide any updated information on their progress. So maybe Councilmember Popson has a little bit more than I do based on his meeting on Friday.
I think I can help a little bit.
Thank you.
Of course, we've been getting a lot of questions, what the activity on the restaurant seems like it's going slow or whatever. So I met with them a couple times since our last meeting, and as late as Friday. And I thought I would take some pictures just so the public could see that they are progressing quite nicely. And a couple of things, what John Bushnell told me, that a lot of the decks and stuff in the exterior is well underway, but inside the guts of it, they're in their mechanical stages. The plumbing is done. The electrical is almost complete. And the HVAC, they told me, is supposed to start next week. So I would imagine in the next week or so, Douglas's group can go out there and make the inspections, and they can start getting into insulation and drywall. So they are moving along, I think, nicely. The other thing I wanted to point out, and there's another picture, Desiree, the one to the right. Nope, I'm sorry. Back one. Yeah, the picture to the right of the rail. I kind of took notice to this is you can see these posts. These are 6x6 solid and 8x8 solid posts. Normally you could get away with a 4x4, but they are really beefing up these structures. And I made a comment to Mr. Bushnell that maybe his structural architect is the one that's making him do this. And he, of course, laughed and said, of course. But it still goes to whether it's the engineer, whether it's the contractor, whether it's the tenant, we're getting a really good beefed up product that they're doing out there. And then there's also a picture of a foundation. I think maybe the next set to the left, and they're underneath beefing all that foundation up again with big beams, 8x8s and 6x6s. So I think, we're, and then on these other ones, they're framing with 2x6 walls. Normally you do 2x4 walls. So a lot of this, again, is the structural engineer. Maybe it's even some Douglas's requirements, but I just wanted to point it out that it seems like they're doing it right. We're getting a good building. And the last thing I just want to make a comment is I walked it a couple of times with them, and there just seems like there's a little bit of safety issues that I noticed, some safety rails, and normally you put up a lot of caution signs and caution tapes, and they're going to look into it, and I'm sure they'll get on it right away. But we live in a litigious world, and as I build, I'm always worried about liability. So safety rails, caution, all that is really important. And the public might say, well, they're the contractor, they're the tenant, why are we worried about it? Well, we're the owner. And if you're liable, then they can come after us as well. So I just thought that I needed to point it out to them. They're well aware of it, and I'm sure they're working on. And then I think also that Desiree and I talked that Desiree was going to instruct Insight to maybe on weekly inspections to make sure that's part of it, if they're not already. But just had a really good walkthrough. Those guys are doing a really good job. I think we're going to get a good building.
Great update.
Just my 2 cents.
Yeah. John, anything to add?
No, thank you, Councilmember Popson.
Yeah, that's an excellent update. And I haven't been there in the last couple of weeks, but I thought they were making amazing progress too. But with Councilman Popson being a builder the way he is, and he was pointing out, just as you did with this update, they're going over and beyond with some of this construction over and beyond what they normally would have to do. So that's good to see. And we're going to get a quality restaurant out of that, quality building as they get that completed. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the update on proposed public dock and green space at the Marina.
We don't have an update on this. As you all know, we still have a holdover tenant at the site. We're waiting through the court system to adjudicate the case. And we trust that it will be on the city's side.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that. All right, item D, update on ADA beach access improvements.
So Douglas is going to join me, so he will update you all on our efforts at improving ADA access on 42nd Avenue. I'll give you a quick update. We've also talked about 34A as being one access that we wanted to pursue, enhancing for ADA access where we currently don't have any. So the survey for that location has been conducted, has been completed. Staff has received estimates from one design firm for the design for the cost to design the boardwalk, and it also includes some drainage work. As you all know, we've talked about concerns with that area being underwater and just being more aware of that as we design an ADA path. So that's ongoing. We've received one quote. We're waiting on two more so that we can move forward with the design. But the survey has been completed. I know that Dr. Smiley had requested an update on that. So we're working through the procurement process currently to get the beach access path designed. And then Douglas will update you on what we've done on 42nd Avenue and improving that existing access path.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Doug?
so really our focus at 42nd is going to be to pivot away from building something physically there. We do and really work with that path as we always have with MobiMat, a rolled out product. At the end of the day, we felt like that was probably the best fit there, but we've wanted to improve the MobiMat that's down there. And Robert with the Public Works Department has been, he's been working on it in the past week, extending it. He has extended it physically a little bit. I think that we can extend it a little bit farther towards the ocean. We are, as you all are aware, requesting and trying to work on something with OCRM that would allow us to go even farther than the seaward toe of that dune. But right now we're understanding that we need to stop at the seaward toe of the dune. So we're going to do that. We're also trying to get the maintenance, basically get together with our landscape contractor and maybe some other contractors to give us pricing on ongoing maintenance of that MobiMat. The Public Works staff has indicated that especially in their busy time, that it is now that we're getting that mat farther towards the ocean, it's really getting into soft sand, and it's gonna go from, a fairly low maintenance requirement to a fairly high maintenance requirement that they really can't tend to, especially in their busy times. So our thought and hope is to get with our contractor and really have a trial period where we're not sure if it's going to require weekly maintenance, monthly maintenance, or kind of bi-monthly. So we're gonna work with them, come up with a price, probably do it for a trial period of 6 months to a year, with them doing it, and then see where we stand in terms of cost. And if it's really reasonable to be out as far as we'd like to be, and then ultimately we hope to even be able to go farther out. So we're kind of building as we go with an understanding of how to maintain it, how to keep it passable, because there's a little bit of a concern that we're going to get to a point where it's out there, but it's not being properly maintained and is not safe for people with disabilities to use it. So we're doing that now. Public Works should be getting pricing from our existing contractor to see what that's going to cost us. We're going to be working on that going forward.
Any idea of timing on that, Douglas?
So I would expect, I would say within 30 days that we could have, that will, I think it's a matter of probably this week of being able to extend a little bit closer to the
Right.
beach than we already are. But in terms of getting, pricing back and have kind of starting this trial period, I would think that 30 days would, I think that would be.
Well, I mean, it'll depend on our landscapers' availability. Once we get them, get them on board, understand what our goal is, we want them to do on a weekly basis. It would just be a matter of scheduling that. So I think it could be done in less than 30 days. Once we have those conversations with them and finalize what the cost would be per activity, moving forward.
Okay, but initially, we do intend to go ahead and extend the mat
Yes.
at this point.
Yeah,
So
we
we're going to
can-
do some
I think
initial
we're-
things this
yeah.
week.
Yeah, I think we all agree that it could go a little bit closer to the ocean than it currently is. Not a great deal farther, but one more, part of the challenge is you have to use these things in their complete sections.
Mhm.
Robert was nervous that if we go another 50 feet, that it may be problematic. I looked at it, I think we're in good shape to go 50 more feet. So we'll do that. See literally where it lands, and be sure that it's not too problematic to be out that far.
Okay,
But that's one issue. So we can extend it, but it's still gonna be on soft sand. So the
Right,
key here
right.
is having the landscaper continually, or, a contractor continually go in and grade it, flatten it so that it doesn't have any humps that, will make it difficult for anybody to walk through on top of the blue mat. And that's the work that we still need to finalize with the contractor.
Okay. Any
Mhm.
comments or feedback? Yes, Ms. Moore.
Just a question regarding where OCR, like any update from OCRM or any indication on that, and then follow-up related question on resolution that we've talked about before. Where do we stand on both OCRM and then the resolution from the city council?
So I heard back from OCRM actually this morning, right before this meeting, saying that they still need a little bit more time. They just got done with a lengthy core process and they're catching up on matters. So even though I do know that they have met with their leadership about this particular issue, we still haven't received, as of today, they haven't given us an update on whether or not they could treat our request as a special exception, or if it would require an amendment of state law altogether. In terms of the resolution, we do not have any update on that just yet. Our goal is to present one draft to council at their meeting later this month. Whether it's a resolution on, a general resolution reaffirming the city's commitment to enhance ADA access, not only on the beach, but in facilities as well, or is it tied to the potential language and amendments that the city could pursue with Representative Bustos to address this particular issue regarding extending the mat? In the event that OCRN comes back to us and says, we can make some internal changes that would allow the city to extend the mat beyond without the need for any amendments to the state law, it may not be necessary then. But if it does, then I think the city definitely should be in a position to pursue that and encourage changing state law. So I guess I want a little bit more clarity, I guess, from the committee in terms of what the resolution would be, what the goal and purpose of the resolution would be. Is it tied to a specific legislation that the city wants to pursue with Representative Bustos on the particular extension of the blue mat? Or is it more of a resolution reaffirming the city's commitment to enhancing ADA access above and beyond what we're required to do by state law?
Did you want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, we need the court of public opinion to help us achieve the goal that we want here. And passing the resolution is one of the tools that we have at our avail. And so from my perspective, it's probably both. I don't think it's one or the other. Now, I don't think it's, obviously, we want to work with OCRM on this, and we understand that they're adhering to their current ordinances. So they're not, it's not like they're kind of out there doing anything like saying, no, you can't do that because we don't like you. They're saying you can't do that because this is the way the code is written. And so I think we can approach it very tactfully and very politely and say, hey, we want to encourage OCRM to revisit and change this. Without passing a resolution, we don't get any news time, we don't get anything. So if we want news coverage, if we want public opinion above and beyond our community, above and beyond this council, we have to take a public stand that says, this is what's really important to us. And the only way we can create greater access, or the biggest way that we believe that we can create greater access, is through a change. And I don't care how OCRM makes that change. I'll leave that to them. But we've heard from folks with disabilities that they're prevented from getting to the beach because of the way that the OCRM codes are currently written.
I think also, I mean, in support of the resolution, it also gives Representative Bustos, I think, additional clout, if you will. I mean, if we draft legislation, or if he drafts legislation, with our help and with the help that he can get from Columbia, with us having a resolution in place, that should give it more weight as he introduces that. Of course, we know right now, General Assembly is not convened, they're off on their break and that sort of thing. So the legislation would have to come later, but if we get the resolution out there and have it in place, and like Council Member Boyd said, the court of public opinion, basically making sure that, our residents are aware of it, and, putting it on the record, I frankly think it would be very helpful. Okay.
No, I totally agree. And both parts, I agree with as well. Do you need some action from us as far as a recommendation to full council?
So
On a
there's no
resolution?
action item on the agenda for a resolution, but what we can do is share a draft with the committee ahead of the next council meeting for you all to take a look at it and present it before we present it to the full council.
Would we present that at this upcoming council meeting?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Right. That good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good with us.
So just a question, I guess, in my mind, I was thinking the resolution would come if the OCRM staff, only if the OCRM staff indicated that they couldn't kind of get past it at a staff level, which I think we don't know the answer to that yet.
I
Are
think,
you all of an opinion to do it either way?
yeah, I think
It-
because we're both on that's why I asked for clarity, but I think what you're saying is that
Get ahead
would
of it.
even, to get ahead of it and maybe use that as a way to put some pressure on the staff of the OCRM to make some positive change in regards to our specific request.
Right. That's exactly right.
I agree. I mean, because we really don't know when we might get an answer. I mean, we just got this note today that you just shared, saying that they still haven't made a decision at this point because of being tied up with other trials and processes within OCRM. Okay, and also, go ahead.
Well, I was going to
Okay.
bring up, again, per Mr. Smiley's email
Right.
about the wheelchairs. I mean, it's something we keep talking about, but how do we move the needle on that? Is that something that, again, we make a recommendation from this committee that we want to purchase some of these? Or what's the next step with these wheelchairs? And then I guess question B is, where do we store them and how do we get them to the access point when the people want them?
So on that regard, I have reached out to the folks at Folly Beach who run a similar program. I know that we have some challenges with storing it here. We've also talked about pursuing some type of arrangement or a public-private partnership with a local company that provides them, that already has them. But in my mind, before we eliminate the city providing that as a service altogether, I wanted to do some due diligence by talking to some folks at their public safety department who handle this and understand really how much space we need to store these and the process by which people can have access to them. I'm hoping to get those answers this week from them. I've presented a bunch of questions that we had operationally here that I'm waiting to hear back on to one, again, determine whether it's something that's not feasible for us as a staff to take on. And then we would go forward with trying to have some type of working relationship with a local company. I want to make sure that we turn we really look at what it could look like by us providing it. I think that would be the preference
Right.
by some folks. So before we say no, we cannot do it, I really want to make some due diligence on that.
And you think you can have some recommendations or at least some information back to the committee here this week sometime?
As soon as I hear back and
Uh-huh.
we get those answers, yeah, I can definitely share that with all of you.
Okay. Good. Good.
Thank you.
It may not be as complicated as we think it could be,
Right.
but it may be. I just want to make sure I hear it for somebody who actually does it first. And that's where we are right now on that.
Well, I think as we mentioned in the August meeting, and that was what, 6 weeks ago when we had that meeting. So, sorry, my phone was ringing. It's on silent, but it was ringing. But 6 weeks ago, when we had our last committee meeting, we talked about making sure that we exhaust every avenue to make the beach more ADA accessible and accommodating to our visitors and our residents. And Councilmember Moy just, reinforced that a little while ago as well, that, now's a good time for us to really make some statements on this, and knowing that we've got, beautiful beach out there that quite honestly, we've seen can't really be accessed very well by some people because of that tremendous amount of soft sand we have. So every avenue that we can exhaust and get in place to make it more accessible, more accommodating, I think it makes a positive statement for us, and it's great for the community. Okay. All right, Desiree, I want to apologize, but can I back up? I guess since I'm chair of real property, I probably can, but I need to ask another question in regards to the Marina dock rehabilitation project. Can I back up on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's one I forgot to ask. Could we get an update, because this has been sort of in the news also, but the pump out system down there has been on and off for the last 7 months, I think mostly off. And, and I know that we had a motor ordered that came in, and there were additional parts that were needed as well. And we're kind of in a holding pattern until that gets done. But could you give us any kind of update on any conversations or any timing on that, please?
Yes, I discussed it with the Marina manager, with Brian, last week, and I asked him to provide a little bit more information about the status of the motor and the parts that were back ordered. I know I received an email from Tyler, the dock master, this morning, but for some reason it's not showing up on my iPad. But I'm going to forward that to all of you. It's a very lengthy email with an explanation and a timeline. I do recall that they expected the pump out station to be fixed by next week, based on my reading of the email this morning. But I don't quote me to it until I can share that email with all of you. But I know that there have been, I know they're diligently trying to get that pump out station working. As you all know, that was part of the scope of the project with the Marina dock rehabilitation project that's been significantly delayed, as we all know. When it became very obvious to us through Salmon's contracting that the project was going to extend past our original date of early summer, that we were going to get that replaced. Then at that point, they ordered some parts, knowing that it was going to be several more months before it was fully replaced. Obviously, just with everything we've seen in terms of construction and material shortages, things were back ordered. The motor came in, but additional parts were necessary. Those have been ordered. And that's the documentation that they were going to provide to me, just to confirm that those are, have been ordered, and there's an estimated time of arrival for us to understand exactly when the pump out station would be operational again.
Okay, and I did get a call from Brian Berrigan on Friday, I think it was, Friday afternoon, pretty much explaining where he was on the additional parts or where they were. And we all know, I mean, the project, you know, had it been the perfect world, everything would have been completed in May. And this wouldn't even be an issue. But since we've had a lot of issues with supply chain, of course, COVID issues all throughout, whether it be people or product, you know, it's created some situations here. But it also, you know, calls out too that, you know, we do advertise that we have a pump out system on our website. It's there that we have one available, and we don't really.
Mhm.
And, you know, and it is also tied to part of the lease. So the questions get raised, you know, as to why we don't have a working pump out system, and rightfully so, it gets raised. So I think we just stay on this, and hopefully this thing gets repaired here in the next several days.
Agree.
Okay, anything? Okay, there's really no new business to discuss today. Any miscellaneous business that anyone wants to bring up? All right, with that, our next meeting date is scheduled for 1:30 PM on Monday, October the 4th, 2021. Is that good for everybody? Good. Okay,
I am likely to miss that one, although I don't know that we can reschedule. My wife is due on the 3rd.
okay.
Already? Oh my God.
So,
Congratulations.
thank you. So I don't know if I want to, who knows what's going to happen, because
Mhm.
baby comes when baby comes.
Should we reschedule it, or do you just want
I think maybe you guys proceed
to? Okay,
with a quorum.
okay. All right. Well, congratulations. In advance. All right, so we've announced that date, Monday, October the 4th at 1:30 PM, and no executive session needed. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Wow, John.